Hello, Colonial hockey fans, and welcome to another one of our Derek Schooley shows online with Mike Prisuta and me, Tim Benz, your broadcast team for Colonials hockey. Glad you're with us as we get set for senior night with the RMU Colonials men's hockey team. The women had theirs last weekend in successful fashion against Sacred Heart. The men looking to do the same thing on Thursday against Mercyhurst. Yet another game against the Lakers. And Derek, an important night for all of your outgoing seniors.
Yeah, this is something that when you come in as a freshman, you look at the pomp and circumstances behind it, and you think that it's so far away, but then yet next thing you know, it's right in front of them. And to honor these three seniors that have been contributors to our hockey program, both on and off the ice, is a special occasion. We've got two of our captains, and Nick Jenny and Nick Perkusic, and a hockey humanitarian nominee and Dylan Lubismeyer. And these guys have been through a lot. They came in as a group of three. Nick Jenny was already here because he came in a semester early. There were only three of them. It was a small class, and graduate three of them. So I'm really proud of their time as Colonials. And I think it's senior night's a special night, a special tradition.
Derek, you've usually done senior night very well in terms of the presentation. Obviously, we're in a different world right now. Is there anything that can be done as a reasonable facsimile, or are we just calling this senior night and then business as usual for 2021?
No, we're still going to honor the seniors and have them all the pomp and circumstance of pictures and announcing their career statistics. But unfortunately, no parents, and no spectators. And so we'll have pictures taken with the staff. And then post game is where we'll dive into it. We've got a tremendous video that we put together with Josh Johnson. We'll have a dinner and play the video where we'll have messages from their families, and a lot of their highlights honoring their 4 years from all over. And we got to make the best of it, and we'll put them online. We'll have quotes from them. We'll have voiceovers, and you got to make the best of how you can do it. And doing it virtually and having the presentation and all that online for people to watch will be something. But really that's an important part of their 4 years, but also this is an important hockey game for us too. And we got to make sure that we play well so this isn't their last home game at all.
You had mentioned, Derek, I remember going back to when we first saw Nick Perkusic as a freshman, that he had senior captain abilities in him. You identified that early, and I think you also identified Nick Jenny's offensive game. Can you talk about where Nick has developed to lead up to what you had predicted for him? And can you also talk about how Jenny's game has become as well-rounded as it has?
Well, I think Nick Perkusic, he's big, he's strong, he can grow facial hair more in a week than it would take me 2 months. And he's just a mature individual, and you could see that with him as a person, and you recognize that. And we made him a captain last year as a junior. He took some things that he felt he didn't do very well and has applied them to being an outstanding leader this year. And I think we surrounded him with a great group, a leadership group, and Nick Jenny, and then 4 juniors, and they've done an outstanding job leading a fairly young hockey team with only 3 seniors to a 14-7 record. And the record was better at points, but I think the one thing that people don't understand is the difficulty that you have going through the season. The stops and starts. We played 7 games in 10 days, and we've only played 7 games in the last 6 weeks. So the stops and starts and the ups and downs and back and forth of you're playing, you're not playing. This game was canceled. Well, let's add this game in on this day. I think it's just been such a trying season on these guys, and you got to have good leaders to navigate through this. And we're very fortunate to have 6 great leaders in this group, and Nick Perkusic's obviously one of them. And then you go to Nick Jenny, who has grown into that leadership position. I didn't think that Nick would thrive as much as he has as a leader, but in some of the Zoom calls we had in the summer, he was very mature, and you could see him growing as a person. And I think that's carried over to him playing hockey, and his game's matured. The game's really slowed down for him. He's got the ability to make plays out of nothing, and I think that those are qualities that happen as a mature individual. So he's matured as a person, he's matured as a leader, and it's carried over to him maturing as a hockey player. So I think I've been really pleased with how those guys have been leaders with this group, because it has been challenging. And, their hockey playing speaks for itself, but even more quality individuals.
Derek, you mentioned having to deal with not knowing when you're going to play or having to go a long time between games. Your third senior, Dylan Lubesmeyer, he's been used to that for a while now, only 22 career games. But, man, has he come through for you this year, both as a starter and coming off the bench in game? Can you talk about the role he carved out for himself and the stick-to-itiveness that he's shown here at RMU?
Well, I think you go to Tim's interview with him, and it shows what a tremendous person he is, all the stuff that he does off the ice, whether it be for youth hockey, for his community, for the community of Robert Morris, and for the military aspect. And Dylan self-admittedly and came in not in the best shape that he could be in to be a Division I player, and really has transformed himself into probably the best shape on our hockey team. The ability to go out and run a half marathon tomorrow if he needed to do it, and different things like that. But that's just him off the ice. But on the ice, he's done whatever has been asked. He comes to work every day, whether it's the third goalie to take as many shots as he can in practice, whether it's starting a game, whether it's the ability to come in and be a long reliever and or come in and get the save. He's done a little bit of everything here, and you're very proud of that. But once again, it's the first nominee that we've had for the hockey humanitarian, and we couldn't be prouder that it was Dylan. But I think he's done a tremendous job both on and off the ice and in the classroom. And I think that's the one thing. All these guys are over 3.5 grade point average, and Nick Jenny's going to get out of here with his master's. Nick Jenny's got a very good job lined up for himself in finance. And I think those are things that you look at, the quality of these people that we have graduating from this program. And it's not a fluke that our record is what it is because of them being good people, and Dylan being a great teammate, being able to accept whatever role he can. And, they're just quality individuals, and we're going to miss them as people as well as hockey players.
Would you say Dylan also has the best taste in baseball teams, head coach included, in the entire RMU community?
Well, you cut Tim off to throw out a Twins reference. I don't know why you.
I expected nothing less. Why should this be any different than the broadcasts, right?
Well, that'll be the thing is, will you say they're going to be 90 losses this year, or are they going to have 90 wins? It's one or the other with that team.
What do you think, Mike?
The answer to the question is yes, he does.
Yes, one of the other.
Well, I think it's the ruck marches that got Dylan in shape. I wonder if you're going to steal some of his tips, Derek, doing all those marches with that 40-pound weight sack on his back that got him. Him describing those was making me sore just listening to him talk.
Well, we've done, it started with Jeremy Hoy, and now through our current strength coach, Eric Jones, of having what described as a hell day, where you get up early and have to carry weights around campus and crawl up hills. And Dylan always excelled in all that stuff. But I listened to it too, and it made me fatigued as well.
You mentioned a moment ago you guys need to win a hockey game against Mercyhurst Thursday. You've seen a lot of them recently. Kind of a tale of two different kind of games at RIT, but you didn't get the result you wanted in either one. How are you positioned right now to do what you need to do?
Well, I think one is getting our players back and getting healthy. I don't know where we are leading into Thursday's game yet as far as getting everybody back, but we played with defensemen and forward, the most defensemen we've ever played in a game in our program history. We dressed 8D. One was up front. We were still a body short. So, I mean, we played pretty well for the most part for 2 periods on Friday. The third period, the wheels fell off the bus. And I thought we were pretty good on Saturday was the first game and Sunday was the second. But I thought we were pretty good on Sunday. Every mistake we made ended up in our net. The scoring chances were 16-10 us, and we give up 4 goals. And we just dropped, when we made a mistake, it exploded in our net. And give credit to RIT, their goaltender was very good. But we had a lot of chances to extend the game. We had breakaways. We had a 3-on-1 shorthanded. We hit 2 posts to open the third period when we had a 1-goal lead. And we're playing with defensemen as forwards. So a lot went on through that hockey game. We were playing with Nick Berkusik. Had an outstanding game without having practice for the last 10 days because of close contact situation. And it just shows that maybe sometimes practice is overrated. So he went out and had a couple points and a goal. And but it's, everybody's dealing with it. So you can't make the excuse. Everybody's dealing with a quarantine, a close contact, an injury. Because when you're starting and stopping, those things continue to happen. And it's who handles it the best. And like I said, we've done a really good job of it so far. And our leadership's done an outstanding job. But it's now getting to the point where you're judged by wins and losses. And we need to get a win.
Derek, what are you telling defensemen when they take over to play forward? Like what are you preaching to those guys on game day to get their mind in the right position?
Well, it's an opportunity. You had an opportunity to. We had a lot of guys with opportunities this past weekend to show what they can with the amount of guys we had not in the lineup, and carve a niche for yourself. And I thought Brad Stenell played forward this weekend, and I thought he did a very good job. And as good a job as he possibly can with 2 days practice and not being his natural position. For him to. He made some plays. He kept the game simple, but it also helps him because now if you get to a point where you need an extra player dressed, you got the ability to play both forward and defense and be confident in doing it. So I was pleased with Brad. Did he make mistakes? Absolutely, but no more than any other normal player would be. And you're throwing him at it's not like you're throwing him at a men's league game or a youth hockey game and go play forward. You're throwing him into a Division I college athletic competition. I mean, imagine taking a wide receiver and making him play quarterback. Oh, wait, that did happen in the NFL. And
yes.
You saw how that worked out, or taking a quarterback and saying you got to play wide receiver. So it's where we are right now. And not, like I said, not just in our sport, but it's happening in other sports. So you make the best of it and you try to adjust, and it is what it is right now.
Derek, last time you played Mercyhurst, you were able to come up with a victory, and you told us right in the immediate aftermath, we needed that win because you had played them a couple of times prior and lost. What was the key to the third time being the charm, and how much of that are you going to try to replicate in the regular season finale?
Well, I mean, obviously, every time you get a big win, especially when you've lost some games, which we had lost 2 in a row then, we've lost 2 in a row now. Those are only streaks of losses in the season. When you put together two game losing streaks and you've only lost 7, that shows you how good you've been the rest of the time. But how are we going to replicate it? I mean, they've got some tremendous offensive talent. They've got a great line, and Young with Heidemann and Briere and Sheriff, and they got Stephen Ipri back in the lineup, who's a very good hockey player, and Maziar is on the blue line, and Hank Johnson has been good in net for him, and they've got another guy that's the freshman's played the last 2 games. So Kyle McClellan. So they've got a deep hockey team. They've got the ability to do some things, and we've got to just make sure we come out and we play our game. We can't get into a track meet. And I think that's one of the things that when you come out of quarantine situations or not playing for a long time, you get a little loose with your game. And we've got to tighten up our habits. We've got to tighten up our game a little bit and not be as loose as potentially we had been this past weekend.
Derek, as we were speaking before we started talking here, it's always this time of year where we start looking at potential playoff scenarios. And if they're complicated in a normal year, they're incredibly complicated this year because you have to go by percentages. You don't know if a team is going to play, when a team is going to play. So it's even more nutty than normal. I guess just to reiterate for fans who are watching right now, the only thing that we know essentially is that you guys will not play in the 1-game first round, correct?
That is correct. We've broken up into pods. A 5-team pod and a 6-team pod. Where things lie right now, Air Force will be in the Eastern pod. There's a 3-6 game in that pod and a 4-5 1-game knockout. In our Western pod, we'll have a 4-5 1-game knockout to get to the final 8. The final 8, you'll still stay on your side. One will play the lowest remaining seed, and then 2 will play the second lowest remaining seed, a 2 out of 3 game series, where 2 from each side, the west side and the east side, will then advance to a final 4, which will be at the height of the home of the highest remaining seed. So you got to make sure that we do our job so we can try to potentially get a host that if AIC advances and chooses not to. And then you got to go East 1 plays West 2 and West 1 plays East 2. And that's how you make up your final 4. Confusing, but what would you expect from this year?
Right.
And you go off points percentage. You asked before we started what we could do to clinch and what the magic numbers are. And you can't really pick that out because there's just so much things happen, games being canceled, potential of games not being played, which changes your point percentages of that you can have. And it's a challenge right now. The only thing that I know is that we're guaranteed of not playing in the first round, but we could go on the road in the second round. If we fall to the 3 seed in the west side, we could be at home. We could be the 1. All 3 seeds are in play for us right now. And the biggest thing that we can do right now is just win, baby. Just win.
Derek, you said something there that was interesting to me. AIC can decline to be the home team if it so chooses. Is that just like if the school doesn't feel like it's ready to host?
Yeah, you're going to go down the list, but I imagine the top seed will want to host that. So you can decline that if you don't feel that you've got the facility, the ability in your facility to host it, but you can do that if that's your prerogative. We would host if we got to that point.
They have a campus rink, or they have the AHL rink?
The American Hockey League facility.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're actually, their American Hockey League facility is not playing right now, so I would imagine that AIC would want to host.
Derek, I don't know if anything's been resolved regarding the NCAA tournament, but if you had any insight into that process, and you were wondering, can Robert Morris get an at-large bid in some way, shape, or form, or will Robert Morris have to win the conference playoff tournament to get in? Which direction would you lean?
Yes. Being on the committee there, I can't really, like I told you, I'm as a coach, we've got to win as many hockey games as possible. And right now with how things are, coaches are going to be calling and giving you their resumes. And the only thing that we've been instructed to tell people is to win hockey games and let the chips fall where you may, but the most wins you can get, the better. And if we could get, 4 more wins and put us at 18 wins, I think that gives us a very good opportunity potentially to be under consideration. But we haven't even got that far, but we just know that you got to win hockey games. And I would have to recuse myself of talking about the Colonials anyway. So but You got to win hockey games. You got to put up a number and hope that that number is good enough.
Well, I'll tell you this, since you're recusing yourself, I'll throw my 2 cents in. You got 14 now. If you beat Mercyhurst, that's 15. Then you go 2-1 in a home best of 3, and then win 2 in the conference Final Four, and I think you're there.
Well, yeah, but that's where you're in as an auto bid. That's not an at-large bid. You're in as an auto bid.
So you're in.
So,
Do you like that? Do you prefer that?
You just glossed over me saying you should go 2-1 in that second round.
Yeah, I know. The only reason that you're saying you go 2-1 is that we're at home and you get paid an extra game's work.
Yeah,
I
I
forgot.
A little stuff for the effort, Lam. How about it?
That's been going on for 7 years. You wait for it. So.
And many times you have acquiesced, so thanks for doing that.
I just ignore it.
Including last year, if I remember correctly.
I just ignore you when you say that because I don't even think about it anymore because I know that you're angling for as many games as possible.
I think you did that perfectly last year. You dropped that opener, then you storm back and win 2 in a row and generate some real traction. That would have been fun to see where that would have gone.
Yeah. You know what? And to get away from the jokes, I think that we need to find a way to get down through the finish line here, all the way through the tournament, for our student athletes' sake. They've sacrificed so much. They've done so much protocols and testing and all that. We need to have a resolution this season, both within league, within our playoffs, and within the NCAA men's ice hockey, because they've done. Like I said, the players have been outstanding, and we got to get a resolution to this season. And we owe it to the players. We owe it to crown an Atlantic hockey playoff champion, which we didn't do last year. We owe it to our student athletes that, and we owe it to our student athletes throughout the NCAA to host the national tournament
and do it here and do it here too, right?
Yes, correct.
Derek, the last thing I got for you, I'll wrap up with this. While you guys were in Rochester, I was at the Clearview Arena quite a bit last weekend, watching the first women's game and then calling the second women's game. I got to throw some of these storylines for people who might not have seen it, who, especially some of the parents and families that pay attention to the men's team, but might not be as associated with the women's team. The stats from that first game, a 1-0 win for the women. I shared some of these with Mike. I don't even know if you saw the boxes, Derek, but the stats from that game were as follows: 123 shots attempted for the Colonials in game 1, 73 shots on goal, and they won 1-0. As I believe her name was Frankie Sanchez, was the name of the goaltender from Sacred Heart, made 72 saves in the first game. In the second game, another shutout for Molly Singwald, who had never started before for the Colonials. It was senior night, senior weekend. So she gets 2 starts on senior weekend. She pitches back-to-back shutouts, and the Colonials win 8-0. And Sanchez made 45 more saves in the defeat, even though she lost 8-0. So the bar is set high, Derek, when it comes to shots attempted from last week by the women. I'm expecting at least 75 to 80 from your guys. All right.
I think we're that these two teams are a little bit more tight and competitive than the other one. But I saw the box score, and congratulations to our women's team for doing senior night right and that winning. And I think that's one of the things that you always want to do, is you want to honor your seniors, and all their seniors were able to get points and a shutout. And I hope we can duplicate that, because we've got a senior goaltender, and we've got some skaters that could use some points as well. So we'd like to duplicate that as well.
Derek, thanks a bunch. Mike, you got anything else?
Just one last request, and I know these usually fall on deaf ears, but Nick Jenny is a senior. At one point, you got to turn to him on the bench and say, Jenny, who can I turn to?
I just let you do that on the broadcast.
All right, thanks, Colonial hockey fans, for watching. We'll talk to Derek again before the playoffs, whenever they may start, wherever they may start. This will be the week after next, sometime leading up to that, because as we pointed out, we know that the Colonials have a bye in the first round, then we'll figure out when and where they are playing for the second round. But check us out on the RMU Colonials app and on Flow Hockey for the Mercyhurst game. That's on Thursday night for senior night at Clearview Arena.